Hello, my name's Bev and I'm the author of the book Please Eat, A Mother's Struggle to Free Her Teenage Son from Anorexia, which describes our family's battle with the deadly eating disorder, anorexia nervosa, which my teenage son Ben developed back in 2009 when he was just 15 years old. Welcome to chapter 23, which is called The Contract. By January 2011, Ben's weight is hovering around the same low level. He's not gaining, but neither is he losing, which, I tell myself, is good news after months of steady weight loss. Okay, it's not an ideal situation in that he's still counting calories and finds it virtually impossible to go over his current daily total by more than, say, 20 or 30 calories. But the difference is that he's not resisting, and unlike a year ago, he isn't cheating, fibbing, cutting down or secretly throwing food away. But I still can't get my head around why, despite turning a corner on the attitude front, he still can't handle any weight gain. Now and again he gains a little, but then he'll lose it, over and over again, and each time he gains, the CAMS session is hijacked by the need to pacify Ben and help him come to terms with it. Up and down by a few points of a kilo goes Ben's weight, until in early February a further drop brings it to an all-time low. Yet surprisingly, his mood, motivation and behaviour improve. Could it be because since October he's been eating a proper, fully balanced diet? For the first time for well over a year, his brain has been getting relatively balanced proportions of fats, proteins, carbs, vitamins and minerals. The only problem is that, although Ben is eating more of the right stuff in the right proportions, he's not eating enough of it. He clearly needs to eat more to put on weight. Yet something inside him is preventing him from doing it. Ben and I continue to walk and talk most afternoons, and I continue to try and overcome his phobia of weight gain. During those early months of 2011, we trek through yet more forests, boggy meadows and farmyards. One season gradually changes into another. Yellow and purple crocuses push through the surface, and the days get slightly longer. We'll talk about how things are going while I drip feed the concept that his weight won't hurtle out of control if he consumes a few extra calories or a fear food. The truth is that although he genuinely wants to recover, he's finding it punishingly tough. But I have to hand it to him, he's trying damn hard to beat the illness. He's begun to set himself challenges, like eating peanut butter on toast, eating small amounts of chocolate and so on, all challenges that would have sent him into a frenzy only a few months before. "You know that cake I baked yesterday?" he says one day. "I put a whole walnut in it so I'd have a surprise treat when I came to that slice. That would have freaked me out a few months ago. The anorexia wouldn't have let me do it, let alone put peanut butter on the slice as well. Oh, and it wouldn't have liked the 2 puddings I had for lunch either," he added. "Or the 2 breakfasts you have every day," I add, silently with delight. "Remember how it used to be at meal times," I say another day, "when you'd go crazy and start banging your head on the wall? What was all that about?" "It's simple," he responds. "Because I was taking in calories at meal times, those calories had to be absolutely perfect. If they weren't perfect, no matter how small the imperfection, the anorexia would make me freak out. Hence why I'd go mad at supper time. The outburst wasn't because the meal was imperfect. It was me being annoyed with myself for being affected by the fact that things weren't perfect. I was angry with the anorexia for doing this to me. That's why I down tools so violently, bang and crash around, maybe smash something." I keep silent, letting him continue. Now the anorexic thoughts are quieter, I'm much more relaxed about eating and actually enjoy it for the right reasons, more like a normal person, he says. I don't even mind if things aren't perfect. For instance, the carrot cake I baked the other day was soggy. A few months ago, this would have freaked me out. The anorexia would tell me that I'd taken in a fatty food that wasn't absolutely perfect. I couldn't handle it back then, but I can now. Ben decides to do some baking. After a while, I hear banging and crashing, followed by loud, shriek-like noises. Then a repeat. My blood runs ice cold. I recognise those sounds. Something must have gone wrong because he's bashing around, throwing stuff and making animal noises just like he used to do. With a heavy heart, I brace myself and pick up some laundry. It's always a good idea to go armed with a prop, as if I've turned up by chance. I take a deep breath and prepare myself to face whatever is waiting for me on the other side of the kitchen door. Bang, crash, smash. Singing, or rather shouting, to loud rock music on the CD player. Ben is hurling bread dough onto the kitchen counter before pummeling it, picking it up and crushing it back down again. This bread is going to rise brilliantly, Mum, he laughs, smashing the dough onto the surface again. Meanwhile, I fill the washing machine with the laundry, acting just like any other mum talking to her teenage son. Do you have to have that music so loud? I ask, faking light-hearted exasperation. Maybe one day I'll be able to relax without having heart-stopping flashbacks. Things are improving, though, they really are. It is like a freezing cold, icy, snow-covered wilderness that is thawing out. The warmth has started to return and the flowers are in bloom, a bit like in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe when the children defeat the White Witch and the snow melts. Gradually, as Ben recovers, it's as if new life is being breathed into him and he can laugh again. When I hear him singing at the top of his voice in the shower or in the kitchen, I know that all is right with the world. Yes, I am aware that he still has a long way to go and gets down in the dumps every so often, sometimes very much so. But it's not like before when he was totally drained of any joy or fun, like an empty shell. These days he can go out with his friends without his mind being 100% on food. He still finds it hard to eat with them, but he manages it. Like last Saturday when he tucked into a huge pizza at Eve's birthday meal. No more returning home miserably, saying, all I thought about was food, or feeling guilty because he ate something he shouldn't. I remember how I used to say to him, when you're old and grey and look back on your life, what will be the most valuable memory? The fact that you sacrificed a day's fun to worry about how much exercise you needed to do to work off the pizza you'd just shared, or the fact that you had a great day out with your friends. Compulsive exercising is still top of our to-do list. I'm well aware that it's bad, but I have no idea how extreme until one CAM session with Linda in early spring. Ever since the October heart scare, Ben has been banned from doing PE at school. Unfortunately, he's exercising at home to compensate and to ensure he doesn't put on massive amounts of weight. It's a kind of purge, almost like a sufferer of bulimia might vomit to control their weight. Walk me through a typical day's exercising, says Linda as she reaches for a pen and paper. Just when we think he's listed all the 100 crunches, 100 sit-ups and 100 press-ups for any one day, he interrupts with, I haven't finished yet. Not once, but several times. School days differ from home days, weekends from weekdays. Ben is exercising from morning to night. I'm just going to stop reading there, if you don't mind. We're halfway through the chapter and it's something that I've been thinking about since I began to read my book and upload the audio chapters onto YouTube. It was okay at the beginning, it was fine, but the further I got into the book, the more it's become not fine, if you like. The reason is this. A year or so after publishing my book, I was at a conference in Glasgow about the latest eating disorder treatment, and I remember feeling a bit odd, a bit strange, not quite myself. And I was still writing my blog virtually every day back in those days, and it was when I returned back home I found I wasn't able to write my blog anymore, or could only write it occasionally. It began to feel just almost like if you've got two magnets and they're repelling each other. You know that feeling when you hold two magnets together and they're repelling? That's the only way I can describe it. I felt like I couldn't face the world of eating disorders, and I couldn't face writing my blog, even though I still continued to write it now and again. This was unusual because, as you'll know if you've looked at my blog and also my website and also obviously my book and another book I wrote after that about other families' experiences of dealing with an eating disorder in the family, I'd been fully hands-on in the eating disorder world. I'd done talks to parents. I'd done a talk at my son's school. But suddenly, I found I wasn't able to do any of that. It all had to stop. Eventually, I was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which is obviously very similar to post-traumatic stress disorder, but it's thought to come as a result of sustained trauma rather than, for example, a single one-off traumatic incident, like, for example, a car crash. Gradually, the chronic PTSD became worse, and it stayed with me for a number of years, and it's only very recently that I felt able to not return to, but face the world of eating disorders again after everything that we went through. But the more I've read through this book, recorded it and uploaded it to YouTube, the more I've become aware that I'm not entirely sure it's 100% helpful to me to do so, to continue. So for the moment, I'm going to stop there halfway through this chapter, and I might pick it up and carry on when I feel able, but I'm just mindful that I'm not being helpful to myself by reading any more of this, because although I am already in this chapter describing the way Ben is improving and the way he was on our side rather than fighting against us, he was to be with CAMHS for another year, so you can see it wasn't exactly a quick fix. And he was only discharged from CAMHS because he'd reached the age of 18, and 18 young people are discharged. They're supposed to go into adult services if they still have issues. But nothing was really set up for Ben. And after that, it was really him and me working on getting him through what remained of the eating disorder. As a bit of a spoiler alert, I will say that in the end, it was very good news. It was excellent news. And now, in 2022, Ben is fully recovered. And not only that, but he went to university and he got a first in history. And then he did a master's, which he got. He trained as a teacher, but then COVID struck, and also he began to be quite depressed. His mental health wasn't in a good place during COVID, so we got him some further treatment, and the therapist he had, a private therapist, was absolutely excellent. And she brought him through it, and of course he brought himself through it through his own strength and perseverance. And he actually went on to take a master's in psychology, which he's just completed, and he got 92% for his thesis and an excellent mark for the masters as a whole. And he hopes to continue in the world of psychology and research to use his experience and his absolute profound knowledge. I mean, he knows so much, to go on to help others. And of course, if he ever comes across anyone with an eating disorder in his work, then he is very well placed to help them, as well, as he's been there, done it, and recovered from it. There are a further 8 chapters in my book, and of course the remaining pages of the chapter we're on, called The Contract, which I may or may not upload at a future date, when or if I'm feeling a bit better. I'm feeling that it's triggering the chronic PTSD, like I said earlier, so I think it's helpful if I leave it there. If you wish, you can buy my book on Amazon, either as a Kindle download or as a paperback book if you want to read the rest of it, which would be really good. But what I will do is, I'm just scrolling through right now to the end of the book, and there's a poem that Ben wrote in September 2014, which I thought I'd read to you, which is called Never Again. And I include this poem at the end of the book. This is how it goes. 4 years of torture, 4 years of pain, 4 years of worry, envy and shame. You promised us love, you promised us life, you promised us glory, not discomfort or strife. We worked through the day, we worked till we cried, we worked till I realised that you had lied. Our life became hidden, shrouded in fears. Our life was unworthy, hollowed by tears. You took our passion, took pleasure with pride. You took away our love and forced us to hide. Fearing our friends, fearing our fate, fearing ourselves with anger and hate. You watched us grow cold. You watched us grow thin. You watched us in misery with that cold-hearted grin. Yet now, rid of you, rid of your pain, I have one thing to say to you, and that is never again.